Hey everyone, it's Miss Bresner. I just wanted to give you some quick feedback on exam 1. I know it's been a while and I'm really late in getting those grades to you. My goal going forward is to have them to you much sooner. But I did want to just still kind of come around to those because a lot of those chapters are really foundational in understanding what we're going to know going forward. So I wanted to give you some quick feedback. Also, I will keep in mind that you didn't have exam 1 feedback when you did exam 2. So if you still struggle with some of the same stuff on exam 2, I will give you a little wiggle room. Exam 3, I'm going to expect much improvement from you. So here's what I observed. First of all, I think it's really important that you don't think of this as a percentage. It's only worth 40 points. So, and it's 3 questions. So let's say one question you're just completely off and it's not at all answerable, or even like an acceptable answer, then, I mean, best case scenario, you're getting like a 25 out of 40, and that's like close to 50%, and I feel like getting that, a 50% on an exam, oh my gosh, that's not at all how I'm thinking of it. I'm thinking of it as points lost, and none of the scores that I'm seeing are really going to impact your grade so significantly that you are going to be devastated by this exam. So please don't think of it like that. Think of it as a number of points lost. The biggest issues we had were just with clarity, making sure that you're answering the question, that you're answering the full question and answering it well. So some of you I definitely saw knew better than you articulated. Like I could tell that you knew some stuff about this question, but you didn't actually answer it. Like you talked about the stuff, but you either didn't come through with an answer, didn't support your answer well enough, or just flat out didn't tell me what I needed to know. I feel like for the most part, everyone did well with the sociological imagination question. So I'm really not going to talk about that. You needed to know what it was and how it was relevant. And most of you did just fine with that. Compare and contrast how conflict theory and functionalism view poverty/economic inequality. That's a mouthful to say, and that's a big question. I'm asking you a lot. Compare means tell me how they're similar, and contrast means tell me how they're different. So for that, you had to tell me how those ideas are similar. So how conflict theory and functionalism both view poverty in a same way and how they view them differently. So that's kind of a big question to tackle, especially if you're not super confident in your understanding of those theories. Conflict theory, I mean, they both view poverty and inequality as part of our human experience. They see that as part of social life. Conflict theory thinks that it's a result of exploitation, that we have people in poverty because other people are hoarding wealth or exploiting workers, and we just don't allow people or have the resources available for people to get out of poverty. Functionalism, it's funny because someone was like, oh, functionalism would think that poverty is society failing, that it's not functioning well. You would think that. You would really think that. But functionalism actually thinks that poverty has a function, that it motivates people. You don't want to end up poor, so you do the right things, go to college, get a job, work hard. And if we didn't have those things, then people wouldn't work hard or be high achieving. And it talks about how, jobs and high social rewards and money are given to people who are the most qualified and the most specialized. So brain surgeons, they have to be really smart, really educated, really well trained, and also really capable people and that's why they make much more money than say someone who works as a fry cook. So you can kind of take your own perspective on that and whether or not you find validity there. I think sometimes we do think that we reward the most qualified people, but we also have professional sports players making hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, while school teachers make tens of thousands of dollars. So which one of those is more essential and important in society? Which one of those is more specialized and well-trained and necessary to a function of society? I'll let you decide. What are some of the benefits and limitations of quantitative social research? What are some of the benefits and limitations of qualitative social research? This was also one that tripped people up because, again, I'm asking for a lot. I'm asking for you to tell me 2 different aspects of the one kind and 2 different aspects of the other kind. And of course, their limitations of any research are, selection bias, like getting a poor sample, or, if you have like researcher bias or people lying in their responses. Those are aspects of any kind of research that could be a problem. So they don't really count in this question, because I'm asking for things that are specific to quantitative research. What's specifically limiting about that? What's specifically eliminating? Why do I want to say eliminating? That's not a word. Limiting about qualitative research. And I think this is one that it's really easy to overstate. So that's something we want to be cautious about going forward, is we want to not overstate things and say like, whenever we get to like gender, poverty, or race, people want to say like, oh, forever we've had this issue. Forever we have not. And you probably need to access a further history to really understand that. But it's the same with this. We don't want to overstate that like, oh, we can't get any, statistics out of, this idea, or we can't learn about this way. That's not quite true. So just make sure you're not overstating things, or like being broad and sweeping and overgeneral. How do material and non-material culture reflect values? That's kind of a constructive question, like how do we as a society construct what we value, and what aspects of our culture do we have? Like, where does that come from? Give an example of each. I'm super proud of everyone for not falling into this like material culture, materialism trap. Sometimes when people hear material, they're like, oh, that's how we value stuff over everything else. And that's not really what it's talking about. It's talking about the aspects of our society that are like physical manifestations. So like our phones, like technology is kind of an abstract idea, but the way that we see technology, we have it in phones and iPads and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that was another one that I didn't see too many issues on. Just that was one that people didn't quite explain themselves super well. So, if you're not sure about the question or what it means, or, how best to answer it, sit with it, consider it, go back to your resources that you have, ask me if you're not sure. I think the biggest issue we had on this exam by far, and it's funny because I think it was like almost, I didn't mean to set a trap, but I think I almost set a trap for you because it seemed like a really enticing question. Like it seemed easy, the Catholic Church being a subculture question. So the question was, is the Catholic Church a subculture? Support your answer. Anytime I'm looking at exam questions, one thing I always ask myself is, what do I need to know in order to answer this question? I need to know what a subculture is. I need to know what a subculture is well enough to be able to assess whether or not something fits that definition. So I need to have some kind of criteria in my mind to be able to, say like this either is or is not. If I don't know what it is, then how can I evaluate whether or not something falls into that category? The second thing you need to know is something about the Catholic Church, beyond just that it's a church. Like you have to have some specifics here in order to truly evaluate this. And so I think for those two reasons, people kind of stumbled in this situation. Is the Catholic Church a subculture? I really would have accepted either answer, yes or no. I think you could have made a valid case for either one. A subculture is a distinct culture that separates itself in some way from the culture at large. So what is different about Catholic Church that is different from like American culture in general? They need to have a shared set of beliefs and values. They need to have mutual like languages and symbols and like practices, things that set them apart in some way that they share that other people don't share. And so I think you could make a good case. I think you could make a good case for Catholic Church being a subculture, because as a subculture of like Christianity, they have some distinctions, right? As opposed to other kinds of church, they have more rituals, right? They have confession, they have the rosary and prayers that they pray. Their services follow like a very specific set of like, this is when we stand and this is when we kneel and here's how we do communion, and the priest says this and we all say this, and they know that. When you are a part of that Catholic subculture, culture, you know the things to say. It used to be peace be with you, and also with you. I'm not Catholic, so I haven't been part of this. But they know the motions to make. They have a shared set of values. Some of you brought up how they tend to value the Virgin Mary differently than other religions. That's good. That's part of this. So then does that make them a subculture? Or is it too broad? Or is the Catholic Church a concept that's too broad to be considered a subculture? I think you could argue either way. I would have taken either answer, but I need to see some support, some reason, some back it up. Got to back it up. So if you just said, yeah, it's a subculture because it's a church and it's part of a church, that doesn't really tell me much, and that doesn't show me that you know what you're talking about in terms of what's a subculture and what's not. Yeah, I think the last thing I want to say in terms of just focus is this is a really good thing to practice. It's very important to be able to articulate yourself into words. Recognizing the right answer on a multiple choice exam is a good skill too, but being able to articulate the thing that you want to say and express the things that you know is invaluable. You will need that forever. So if you didn't do as well as you would have liked on this exam, take that as a challenge. That's an encouragement. I know that you can do better going forward. So, put that into practice. Make sure that you're answering the question. Ask yourself, what do I need to know in order to answer this? Read it back. Did I answer what was being asked? Sometimes I would get answers that, especially on the Catholic Church question. It's like if I asked you what you want for dinner. Say, I'm going to the store. What should I get for dinner? And you said, well, I had chicken yesterday and I really like Kroger chicken. It's so good. And I think I have a coupon and I saw this new recipe on Facebook and yada, yada, yada. That's all well and good. And you're talking about dinner and that's sort of relevant. But what I need to know is what should I get you from the store, right? And that's how I feel sometimes when I read these answers is like, okay, yes, you're talking about this, but you haven't given me an answer to my question. What are the limits of qualitative research, sir? Okay, that's all. Let me know if you have questions. Again, I will be more accommodating of exam 2 because you didn't get my feedback in a timely fashion, and that's my fault and not yours. So I will keep in mind on exam 2 that you hadn't gotten any test support for me yet, and I will take that to heart. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.